on, I guess, the distaste that's out there from traditional designers in the design field, where they have their Adobe Suite products and they're so used to working in those. And when they see PowerPoint or Keynote or Google Slides, it's almost like an offshoot, not a pure design program. It's not built for them. It's, it's kind of built for the masses, but
Mm-hmm.
has design
Mm-hmm.
abilities. But to your
Right.
point, it's trying to just shift from a young designer, like from the very seed stage, shift their perspective from design is just what you can do with your abilities and your taste and how you can put elements together. And the tool is just, you use whatever tool you need for the deliverable. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's some sort of fogginess over presentation software and what it can't do, and people just being afraid of what it can't do versus trying to work on how special they can make a presentation, regardless of what it
Right.
can and can't do. It's still the tool to present with. And I think there's a lot of handicapping of their own work if they build a presentation in InDesign, or if they build a presentation in Figma. You can get great results, but you can't scale it. You can't give it to someone else who's not a designer to go and edit, and it can live longer and it can iterate and continue to be a great tool. So, yeah, I'm just curious to hear more about your thoughts on that kind of divide we have between what's design software, what's not design software, and why that even
Mm-hmm.
exists, really.
I mean, I think if somebody has that idea, because I run into that all the time, designers, other designers. I've given talks at different companies that I've worked at,
Mm-hmm.
talking about how much I love presentation design and getting into the story of it and everything. And people are, and these are mostly product designers, are
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh my God, PowerPoint! It's just horrible," you know. And it's like a hindrance to think that you can't express yourself creatively just because of being in one program or not, right? Like you should be able to
Mm-hmm.
do any, have one, limit yourself to like one pencil and a tiny scrap of paper and see how creative you can get. Like it is not about the tool that you're using. It's about how you can get your vision onto whatever external surface so that other people can see that too, right?
My perspective on it is I always think about, I guess, the usability of what I'm creating. So thinking about the
Mm-hmm.
audience of it. And I think so many designers on traditional design teams, marketing teams, they really only have to create files and assets for themselves and share the final deliverable where that needs to live statically, or if it's motion graphics, whatever. But with
Right.
presentation design, why I'm so passionate about it is because it gives me, and I'm, internally at a company building the templates and building their pitch deck and these modular decks that they can use for different reasons, is putting the best of our brand in the hands of the most basic user and letting them express their ideas and communication with the best versions of our brand, rather than just giving them this bare bones skeleton kind of ugly thing and not designing it, not putting that same effort into it. And then, your whole company is speaking for your brand, for your company, and they don't have anything good to work with because nobody's putting that effort into it. But I think giving brand in the hands of people is makes your brand even that much better. And, you know, presentation software is the only software you can do that in, that allows them to keep building and building and building and kind of user generating their own branded content, which is
Mm-hmm.
really hard to do with any other platforms.
For sure. And I think that's also why I love education and internal company education, just helping people understand how, not just how to use the tool, but how best to use it, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
giving them the parameters and then letting them loose rather than, it's kind of like when I was in photography and we learned the zone system, which is this very complicated way of shooting black and white photography that Ansel Adams invented. And
Okay.
and it was really like you had to learn it, right? You had to learn how these, what these, all these numbers did, where you could place the blacks and the whites on this spectrum. And once you learned it, you forget it, right? Because you know it
Okay.
already. You just know
Right.
it. And that's
Right.
kind of the thing about uh, teaching the masses design. It's like, okay, you know that you don't want all the words on there now. Like, what can you do now? So,
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite stories of teaching people at work in that vein was I was working at ServiceNow, and I had this
Hmm.
engineering VP who I would work with often on webinars and different things, different decks. And he would always want to put all the words on there. And I'd say,
Yeah.
but we can't, people will either listen or they will read, and they can't do both. And so
Hmm.
what do you want them to do? And it was, at first, it was like this little struggle of us trying to figure out how best to work together. And then a few months into working on projects with him, we were on a call with somebody else, and he said to them, people they can listen or read.
Yeah.
So we don't want
Yeah.
to put all the things on the slide. I was like, yes.
They're
It's
soaking
just
it
like,
in. They get it.
yeah.
There's so much of it. Like in the week, this will be plenty of content for another video, but the psychology
Mhm.
behind everything we do, beyond just what goes on the slide, the psychology of dealing with the personalities we deal with in terms of the stakeholders
Mhm.
and, these C-level execs or these product teams or the sales teams, and very different personalities on different orgs within a company in terms of both how they approach slides, how they approach presentations, what they
Right.
think they know about presenting. Like to your point,
Mhm.
whether the audience is going to listen or read, some people actually don't want to be listened to. They're like, I want something that's going to make me feel safe so they can just look up there because I'm not going to
Mhm.
say it right. And it's like we have to we're the ones that have to instill that confidence in them that no, you can do this, you can say it this way. We can give you slides that don't have all the content but actually help you and give you confidence to say it a way that you want to say it. So that's like there's so much we can dive into there, but yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.